You are listening to the Better 2 podcast with DM Needham. Hi, gang. Donna here. Thanks for tuning into the Better 2 podcast. Today's guest is Delanda and McNair, and she's written a book called Father, Then the Eyes Can See. And it's an interesting story because it is about a son taking care of his father after a stroke. But the interesting story is the fact that when Delanda wrote this back in 1995, she didn't know how close it would resemble her own life in 2012. So we explore that journey and we explore being a caregiver and the choices you have to make as a caregiver. And she talks about her relationship with God, and we talk about a lot of different things as far as aging and dealing with our parents. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hi, Delanda. How are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. How are you, Donna?
I'm doing good. We were just talking before we got on air, and I guess we should pick up that conversation. So you are a writer, and you were telling me that you started writing your book back in 1995, was it?
Yes.
And it's about being a caregiver of a father. But how did this actually play out in reality?
Okay, so fast forwarding to 2012, my mother had come to visit. My sister and I live about 15, 20 minutes apart. So my sister is, what she call herself, a domestic engineer.
Okay.
So my mother was with her that week. It was the last weekend of April 2012. So the whole week, my mother was with my younger sister. And then during that weekend, that Friday morning, Friday afternoon, my mother came over to my house. And so by the time I got home from work, my mother, she showed up maybe about 30 minutes to an hour later. Fast forward in that whole weekend, and we found this stuff after the fact. Like my younger sister was talking to me, my older sister who's living in Kansas right now, and at that time was talking. My mother was giving us pocket information. So make a long story short, my mother had been dealing with stroke-like symptoms that whole weekend from that Friday on through that Sunday. And she was saying little things to my younger sister. And she called and so when she came over here Friday, she spent the night Friday, she spent the night Saturday, and she was here Sunday. And she was supposed to go back over to my younger sister's house that Sunday evening or Monday morning when I went to work. And so she talked to my older sister in Kansas that Saturday morning. Again, she's in my house. So
Yeah.
all this stuff that she's dealing with Saturday and Friday night, like I had no clue. And so that Saturday morning, I had my mom out and rolling because I had like a chiropractor. And it's like Saturday was like makeup day. So, okay, got to get this, got to go here, got to go do groceries, whatever. Yeah. And so I had my mom out in and out from about 8 o'clock until about 10:30 that night. We also had like prayer at the church, and then I had choir rehearsal. And so fast forwarding, my mom she experienced a stroke that Friday night in her sleep. Okay. She didn't tell my younger sister, who was the house that she was actually at. She then Saturday morning is on the phone with my older sister, and basically she tells her, I don't know, I think something's going on with me. I think I may have had a stroke last night because when I woke up this morning, my face was different. But my mom is like a praying woman. So she said, I put my hand on my face and I said, I rebuke it in the name of Jesus. And she prayed and she said her face became straight. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at my mother. I couldn't even tell that she'd even had that situation, and I would never know anything about the conversation. So yes, so my mom had been dealing with stroke-like symptoms the whole weekend. And finally that Saturday evening, late Saturday evening, it was like 30 minutes before midnight. We just finally sat down like, whew, it had been a long day. And so my mom was writing some things out, and I noticed her dragging her arm when she was writing. She wasn't simply, flowing across her page. And so I said, Mama, did you just drag your arm? Why are you dragging your arm? And then she said, I don't know, it's just my arm been feeling funny, kind of weak, like periodically throughout the day. And then she said, in the store, she suggested we buy more apple cider vinegar. And I was like, Mom, I have two full bottles. And then that's when it came. She said, well, you need some more. Just get some more. So later on that night, she told me, she was like, well, I dropped the bottle earlier this morning. I had no clue. Didn't even hear it fall. So she
Wow.
lost a whole bottle of apple cider vinegar earlier Saturday morning because the weakness in her arm. And come to find out, I said, well, Mom, I can't make you do anything. I said, but if it was me, I would at least want to know what's going on in my body. I said, do you want to go to the emergency room? I said, like right now, because of the time, that's all we have. And then because she doesn't like doctors. And so I said, but again, I can't force you. I said, but if it was me and you say you've been dealing with this all day, see, all I know about is Saturday.
Yeah.
I had no idea about Friday until well later after the fact. I said, I will go at least see what's going on, if there's something going on with my body. And she sat there and sighed. She said, I hear you. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't push her. And so I went upstairs. I said, okay, I'm going upstairs. I'll be right back. And so I had gone upstairs to get ready for bed, and I already changed my clothes, and I come back. She was taking off her jewelry, you know what I'm saying? And her value and cleaning out her purse, and said, okay, I'm ready. And I said, what we doing? And she said, I think I need to go to the hospital. I said, okay. So I go upstairs, I throw on some clothes, and I go. My mother she walks herself in the emergency room. She checks herself in at midnight, and we end up rolling her out in a wheelchair.
Wow.
And what happened is her blood pressure was so extremely high that they kept manipulating, which was the worst thing they could have done for her and her body, because I didn't even know that her main vest artery that goes to the bottom of her brain was dealing with blockage. My younger sister knew that. So as I'm checking my mom into the hospital, I don't know to tell them, listen, whatever you do, please be mindful. She has blockage in the main artery going to her brain. And so what happened is, yes, it was deathly to some degree that her blood pressure was so extremely high, but it was even more problematic for them to go and manipulate her blood pressure the way that they did, because with it being so high, it was forcing the blood consistently through that stem and that blockage. And her body was simply just needing the time to get itself back in order. And then it would have needed the more additional medical treatments. But yeah, they kept around saying her blood pressure is this. Okay, well, let's give her this. Well, it's still this. Let's give her this. Because they gave her blood pressure alteration medicine like 4 times at least between the time we entered in that little, the little holding room right at the emergency room, from the time we ended up there, going to the back and them doing a little observation and then rolling her to the next floor. It had already been manipulated 3 or 4 times. And let alone how many times throughout the course of that night, because they end up keeping her that night. So I literally left my mother that Sunday, because by the time they got her to a room, like I said, we left here at 11:45. She was admitted at midnight. They finally got her in the room about 9:30, close to 10 o'clock. When I left my mother that morning, she was talking. When I came back, she was almost like in a vegetable state, and she could not talk, and she knew something was not right. So she was almost like in a hysteric, but not, you know what I'm saying? Like basically like, what's going on with me? Because I walked myself in here like, so this is not right. Yeah, it was. Ooh, yes. So she gets to come to live with the one who's never been married, don't have children, never had children. So I was straight up every bit of a single to myself, to some degree selfish, because I didn't have to ...
Yeah.
When I left work, it was it. When I left work and crossed the threshold of my home, it was whatever Delanda decided to do or not do, or entertain or not entertain. And I'm very laid back, and like I'm not one of those entertain me type people, So yes. And then my mom is like, she likes to be out, and she just always on the phone. Before the stroke, she had a phone book, like a little phone list that she had written out. And she was literally going through that phone book every day, every morning, every afternoon, calling people. Like when she didn't come back home and people start asking where she was and start calling around. And when we would see them, they were like, I miss you. They would be in tears Like,
Yeah.
I miss your mom so much. She used to call me every day, or she used to just drop by my house just to say hi. And like, we still get those comments when we go back to our hometown. We still get those comments. I miss seeing your mom so much. I used to see her every morning at the post office. She was always dot, 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 dot. Everybody, it was so many stories, so many stories. So
So
yeah.
that so but bringing it back to the book was you wrote about a stroke back in 1995.
Mhm.
And we were talking, this is where we were talking about offline. It was like, there's the movie Stranger Than Fiction. And I have done it in my writing. I've written something and then turned around and watched it play out for somebody. And you're like, how did you know? It's the strangest thing in the world. But it
Yeah.
happens. It happens. When you're talking about blood pressure, my husband used to have this issue with high blood pressure. I mean, his blood
Hmm.
pressure was always really high, and he had kidney failure. And his nephrologist, who was they deemed him, all of his doctors deemed the nephrologist as the blood pressure guru. And they would say his body is so used to having that high of blood pressure that to do anything else is going to be detrimental.
Right.
And I think, that's the thing, though. I think in the medical profession, they're taught to recognize certain landmarks, that this has to be in this norm. And the fact is, there's sometimes that people's bodies are outside that norm.
It's so funny that you said it like that, because one of the chiropractors that we were going to, he started off as a traditional doctor, and then his father got sick, and all this medicine that he so believed in for so long was not working for his father, and it did something to him. So he started doing research, and he started researching and researching. And make a long story short, he came to the conclusion that all this time, all that training that he had been following and learning, it was teaching them to find the issue, but treat the symptoms and not the issue. And he was like, he just couldn't do it anymore. So he went to, like, it's more like the what is it? I
Holistic.
probably, yes, because I was about to so butcher the word. Thank you.
No worries.
He went to that side of it, and then he blended in the chiropractic side of it, and start focusing on the nerves and the nerve endings and the different body parts and the limbs that it feeds, because there's a connection. They're having conversations, or the conversation is off. Let's get them talking properly. So yeah, I so appreciate him. So appreciate him.
I mean, I know.
Because
Go ahead.
no, because the crazy thing is, the reason my sister knew about that blockage, because my mom had gone just in May. Was it in May? March. My mother had gone in March with my younger sister and her family to that chiropractor, and he was saying, "This is what we see." But my mom did not think that she could afford it,
Mm.
so she didn't go with it. And so she and my younger sister, found out about that blockage when they did her observation, and he was suggesting some things to her. And my mom just did not see how she could um, pay for that. And what's so horrible is, I had been going there. My younger sister had started like at the top of March. She introduced me to the chiropractor. It was like a dinner and learn, or something like, what was it, lunch and learn, something like that. And they tell you about who they are, what they do. So I saw the benefit of it. And if nothing else, my mother could have just joined me on my plan, but I didn't even know that
Right.
my mom wanted it and had gone to until after the fact. And it's like, my younger sister was telling me her stories. She was like, yeah, because she was like, mom asked me for a blood pressure pill Friday morning. And my mother doesn't, up until that stroke, my mother hadn't been on any kind of medications. And like, my mother would be turning 80 in November of this year. So that was 12 years ago. So what is that? I'm horrible at math on the spot. But anyway, it was 12 years ago. And up to that point, my mother was not on any kind of prescribed medications, because she believed in taking care of her body the natural way. But it was just this situation that she had been stressing about, and I didn't even know about it until, again, after the fact. It's so horrible. All the thing, what's it called? The chips fall in place
Yeah.
after the fact.
Well,
it's yeah.
that's the thing. If you're not communicating, then you don't know the full picture. And our parent, dare I say, sometimes our parents don't want to be totally honest, because that would mean that they are human.
not only that, my mom was like, she didn't want to bother. She didn't want to, how did she say it? I didn't want to, I didn't want to be a burden. I'm like, Mama, really? Like you jumped through so many hoops for, my mother had 5 children. So, and a husband, you know what I'm saying? So you chose to jump through so many different hoops for so many different personalities for all this long period of time. Why would you think ever that it would be a burden for us to be able to pour back into you? Never.
Because sometimes we look at things and we think, well, I don't want to bother anybody else. This is for me to deal with. I take care of everybody else. It's who I am. I'm good at taking care of other people, but I don't want to have anybody take care of me, because that shows weakness, and it shows that, I don't want to be the burden, and I don't want to interfere, and I don't want to be the bother.
You know what? It's interesting that you say it that way, Donna, because I know for me, because I left home at 18, and all of my siblings are married with children. Okay. So, and I'm not quite I'm like this, it's 4 before, it was 3 children before me. I'm the 4th, and then my younger sister. So, when I left, I hear what you're saying with that, because there were things that I went through, and not like it was life threatening or anything like that, but there were things that I went through that I probably should have been more communicative about with my parents when I first left home. But the way I saw it was, no, you brought you here. It came to you, or you set yourself up for this to happen. Whatever the case was, I just felt like, no, it's not their responsibility. It's yours. You your own household now, so you figure it out. So it was very few times that I called home and I was like, okay, I need your help with XYZ, because I was like, okay, Delanda, this is what you're looking at. This is what it's looking like. You need to figure out how to ... So I can see how and look, and I haven't even had children. So I can see how someone can get to that place like, no, I'm gonna figure it out. Or no, let me just, yeah.
Well, and think about it. You are her daughter. So on some level, you most likely learned that from her.
Someone else says something similar to that to me. Yeah. So
I mean, as much as we say we don't want to be our parents, there's certain things, whoever raised us, whether it's our real parents, aunts, uncles, whatever, grandparents, those little pieces of those people came into our personality.
Well, you know what? I can say, look, hey, let me be like my parents. Look, I'm like, let me be more like, let me be like a perfect blend of both of them, because like both of my parents are really outgoing. Both of my parents were really loving, and you know how, who said this? I don't know if it was Napoleon Hill or somewhere. I was listening to some audiobook and they were talking about basically when you see the need, if you can, you take care of the need. Don't wait for someone to ask for the help if you're well able to do so. Sometimes I'm good at that. Sometimes I'm not. But no, it was like clockwork. Like my father, especially my father, like there were endless times that he would come home from work and someone would be in the car with him. And he'd be like, Daddy, who was that? And he was like, oh, this guy, I saw him walking in. He needed a little money. So I told him if he come help me and chop the wood, I'll pay him. Like just stuff like that. So yeah. So if I could be a perfect blend of my parents, yo, I'll have something to work with.
And I do want to say this for anybody out there listening that's going, well, you guys are going after the medical profession. I want to say this. The medical profession is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I'm not knocking it. However, as you said, I don't think they fully investigate everything like they should. It's much easier. And I know fibromyalgia is real for some people. I'm not saying it's not. However, I think too many doctors use it as a dumping ground. I mean, I actually have physical structural problems with my back and I have a pain problem. But guess what? It's much easier for them to say, here, you have fibro. When actually I also have a thyroid problem. But we don't want to look at the big picture. It's just easier to say, here.
Yeah, it takes some dissecting, like down to the smallest compound, to be able to find that perfect happy median for whatever the true symptoms are.
Right.
So yeah, like you, no, we need medicine.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely, because I mean, there are plenty of times where it's life or death, and without that medical situation, procedure, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Absolutely, I appreciate medicine. I'm just saying, for my mother at that time, I just wish I had known more,
Right.
and I just wish those who were so quick to give her that medication were not so quick to manipulate her blood pressure. That's all I'm
Right.
saying.
No, and I get that. I just wanted clarification for anybody out there listening before it gets misconstrued that we are doing that. And it's like, it's not the case. We just, there's certain aspects. I mean, my dad, he's a prime example. My dad he was working until the day he worked the day before, and then he got up to have coffee, and he's in New Orleans and I'm up here in Chicago. And he went to the coffee shop, right, a block down from, not even a block, it's like 2 doors down from his house, and he had a stroke and a heart attack.
Wow.
Right there. However, somebody called 911. He's made a full recovery.
Right. That's a blessing.
Yeah,
Good
it
deal.
is. But once again, though, here's a man that did not take any medication prior to this. He was okay.
Yeah.
So, and now medical intervention, he ended up having a leaky valve. They fixed it and he's fine.
Cool.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where sometimes medical intervention can be great, and other times it's like,
yeah.
I had the opportunity to interview a doctor, and I passed on it because he was, I knew that it would be a tough interview for me, because he was going to tell me that stenting and bypass surgery were bad things. And I walked this journey with my husband. I had 10 years extra with my husband because he had these surgeries. So I did not think that this would be a very good interview.
Right.
And I know the positive effects of it. So, but we're getting off on track, and I'm sorry.
No. This is conversation. That's the whole point of it. It's like the give and take. Yes.
So how bad, I mean, I don't want to say it like that, but how bad off is your mom now? I mean, she's wheelchair bound, obviously.
Yes, she is wheelchair bound. And here's the thing. The crazy thing is, oof, girl, this medical. Okay, let me stop. Okay. The facilities, Lord. Okay, so a year after my mother's stroke, okay, she was actually up and walking. It affected her right side. Okay. My mother was actually up and walking with a quad cane, and she was learning to trust and learn the weakness of her right leg. Okay. But she was able to at least still kick it forward or extend it forward, and some say use it like a kickstand as she bring her left leg around. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But my mother was walking. Make a long story short, so my mother had gone away with some family members for a weekend, and it was still early on in her after the stroke. And I don't know how much you know about the stroke, and we were just still learning. We didn't even know that they were saying her temperament was off. So she could be too hot, too cold, but not directly tell you I'm cold or I'm hot. And make a long story short, they were telling us, make sure you keep her hydrated, make sure you do this. So it was all these things, make sure her electrolytes are up. It was a list of make sure of the stuff that like I said, we were still in the process of learning. So when she went away, she ended up coming back extremely dehydrated. But we didn't know exactly what that was. I just know when I left my mother that morning when I was going to work, she was as healthy, as vibrant as she had become to be in her stroke recovery. And then when I came home that afternoon from work and saw her in this vehicle returning home, she was slouched down in the front seat, like couldn't even hold her head up.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we took her to the hospital, they were like, they kept her for 3 days, and they were saying basically she does not have a medical issue. Now, what we missed is we could have just brought my mother home and had a home care aide come home and check on her throughout the week. We didn't know that was an option. So they said what we suggest is we send her over to this place. It was supposed to be a transitional rehab. It was a straight up nursing home. And fast forward, they dropped my mother, did not report it, and they kept pulling her out for rehab. So what started off as a hairline fracture on her hip turned into a straight up broken bone, and her bone came up and fused up and on her pelvic, so her legs are off. Oh. That's why she's in the wheelchair, not because of the stroke, because of because of the incident that happened at that facility.
And
And people were like, what did you do? Did you do this? No, because the way it unfolded, my mother had already been going back and forth to therapy there for some time when they noticed, wait a minute. And my younger sister was there that day. That's who brought it to their attention. My younger sister was going there, meeting her to see her go through her therapy. So when she was there, she was sitting there trying to get my mom straight in the chair and realized, wait a minute, her legs are not lining up. What's going on? And so she brought it to the therapist's attention. She was like, do you see this? Like, and what? I can't get her straight in the chair. And they were like, yeah, I'm seeing that too. That's what's triggered them to go and do an x-ray and see what's going on in her body. Why didn't the person just simply report it? And none of that would have happened. Like, it's not, yeah. So
no, I get it. I get it. I had to take care of my grandmother, my mom's mom. And she had fallen in our apartment before Katrina happened, and she broke her leg. She fractured her leg, and they didn't think she was going to make it because she had been on the floor for 4 days.
Oh.
So I fly down there. They're vacuuming blood out of her lungs. So this is, and she's talking to her mom, who has been deceased since she was a little girl. So I'm pretty much sure saying this is it. And they're like, can we go in and operate? And I'm like, but you told me she's not going to make it. Well, okay. So I let them operate. So they operate on the leg. It's fine. She regains consciousness. They're like, okay, you're going to have to put her in hospice. Now, the one thing I'm going to say about my grandmother, I'm pretty sure my grandmother she wanted to make sure I was okay. This is the reason she made it through all of this. So she makes it through that. I put her in hospice. They kick her out of hospice because she's doing fine.
That's awesome to get kicked out of hospice.
well, yeah, but here comes something scary. Okay. And we're talking about care facilities. No, we're talking about care facilities. So my grandmother, they want to do a psych eval. All my grandmother wanted to do was go back to her apartment. That's all she wanted to do. So they do a psych eval. The psych calls me up and she's like, so does your grandmother have any, is she depressed or she have any dark thoughts? I'm like, she wants to go back to her apartment. Well, what about your mom? What happened with your mom? I said, well, my mom committed suicide. Oh, okay. So is your grandma sad? Sometimes I'm like, has she ever threatened it? I'm like, she's jokingly threatened it for every year that my mom, when the anniversary comes around. Well, okay. So you don't think she's a danger to herself? No, I don't. I don't. She just wants to go back home. That's all she wants. I have power of attorney, by the way. I have durable power of attorney, medical power of attorney. So I call her. It's Friday night. I call her because I called every day. I called her at the nursing home. And I'm like, how are you? And she's like, I'm okay. We're having this nice conversation. And then this guy comes in. Now, mind you, I'm here. And she's like, what are you doing? The guy takes a sheet. Now, my grandmother is 74 years old.
Okay.
She does not know this man. Takes a sheet, starts wrapping her up in it. And she's panicking. And I'm like, what is going on? And the guy is like, well, we need to take you in for evaluation. I'm like, what? I said, I say, put somebody on the phone. So they put him on the phone. And I'm like, that I do not allow this. I'm not going to allow this. She is fine. She does not need a mental evaluation. Whoever said she needed a mental evaluation is wrong.
Right.
All right. Well, so nope, we don't have it. It's passed. They went and got a court order to supersede my power of attorney and put her in a mental hospital. They came back the following Friday when I'm on the phone with her and did the exact same thing, except this time they took her away. I had no contact. I was not allowed. Fortunately, I had a friend that was a lawyer down there and he went and saw her and talked to her. So she's in the mental hospital for 2 weeks. Then they release her to a hospital. And then Katrina happened. So in a roundabout way, because the nursing home she was at ended up being flooded and devastated. Her apartment, the wall came off. So she would have been in a bad place there. So ultimately she's in a hospital with no electricity and no, there's no real food. They were giving the patients oranges. And the nurse, I talked to her because she was just like, I called and talked to the nurse. And I just said to her, I said, so how are you? And she's like,
right.
Honestly, I don't know how my family is. I don't know if I have a house. I don't know anything. So
because they got stuck there.
Yeah. So they're all stuck there. My grandma gets out finally. And my dad is going to give me my other grandmother because his wife had died. That's a whole nother caveat to the story. But so he picks up both grandmothers. So I have both grandmothers that come to live with us. And eventually my grandmother, because of her leg, nobody has ever put her in rehab because she was in hospice and then she went to the mental hospital. So she's had the surgeries, never gone to rehab. And then finally, when we get her up here, she falls in the bathroom, not once, but twice. And I'm like, okay, we need to send you to, she goes in because she's got an issue too. So she goes into the ER and they're like, well, we think your grandmother needs to go to a care facility right now. I have pneumonia. I can't go pick out a care facility. So all this is coming at one time because I can't go to the hospital with pneumonia, can I? Not really, because, I'm contagious at a certain point. I could be possibly. Right. So they put her in, they give me this random list. I don't really vet it. I pick one. Okay, so this is the nursing home nightmare, and I'm sure you're aware of. You walk into the nursing home and you smell piss.
Yeah, and it was not inviting entry. It wasn't.
No, and the place was just a total crap fest. So we go, and she starts complaining of her arm. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, well, they're doing physical therapy on my arm. I'm like, why are you doing? I'm asking the nurse. I'm like, why? Well, that's what the doctor ordered. And I'm thinking, it's her freaking leg. Why in the world? So I picked her up and I was like, we're going to go check out another nursing home. So we went and checked out this other facility that, they actually treated their patients well. They had, you went downstairs, they had like a little area that looked like a shop, and they had an ice cream parlor and a little park. And it was very nice. So we brought her there. And because of her Katrina status, she became a celebrity. The newsletter. And the thing about the ultimate thing, the long story here is she learned how to walk again. And shortly before she passed, I had taken her out for her birthday, and she's like walking along and dancing and everything else. So it was like, I got to see her have that moment of being whole again, even though her mind,
she went out happy.
Yeah, her mind was kind of off, but she was happy. And, when I look back at this, I remember that day I took her out and I got her a Starbucks Frappuccino, strawberry Frappuccino, because she loves strawberries. She never had one before. And she's just like, this is so good. And she was diabetic, and people would be like, well, why would you do that? Look, at a certain point, quality versus quantity. And if she was going to, if she wanted something and wanted to be happy, she would do this. She would call me and say, Dawn, can you come get me something? Can you bring me some McDonald's? The food tonight was really bad. Okay. So I would go up there. She had already eaten dinner. The McDonald's was for later. I'm like, she'd have popcorn stuffed in her nightstand, so she could have something for later. I'm like, okay.
Right.
So I get what you're saying about the care facilities, because sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not. Ultimately, I think she fell at the nursing home. She died from a brain bleed.
Oh, wow.
But,
Gotcha.
And they asked me at the time in the ER, they're like, do you want to do a medical intervention? And I said to them flat out, I said, let me ask you this. I said, she's been out for this long. If you go in there and do surgery, what are the chances of her being whole afterwards? Well, 95% chance she's going to be a vegetable. Then why do it?
You know what? It's interesting that you said that, because I have a niece. She's finishing up her nursing training now. And like last year, she asked, well, in 2018, we took a road trip to Kansas from North Carolina. So it was my cousin and I and my mother. And my niece, all of my mother's grandchildren have pretty much seen my mom in this state. But since we were there for an extended period of time and we were actually there in Kansas in their home, my younger niece saw more of the real story, my mom's real story. And she started asking her mother questions. So, okay, the trip is over. We make it back home. And finally, my older sister gets us. She was like, me and my younger sister, she was like, I need to talk to y'all. Let me know when y'all can talk. So she started asking, she was like, what is mama's seat? It's like a call, a letter. I'm like, what is that? Like, basically, if they have to take her to the emergency room, do you want them to perform certain procedures on her?
A DNR.
And I was like, I don't know. Like, and she was like, do you want them to do this? Do you want them to do this? And do you want them to resuscitate? Do you want to? I was like, I don't know. And then they were like, she said, I don't know either. She said, I'm asking y'all all these questions because that's what my baby was asking me. Because this her youngest daughter that's doing the nursing thing. And she was like, because my mother is a small frame. She barely weighs like 95 pounds and she's barely like five. She may be like 4'8". And my niece was telling her mom, she was like, because if they have to resuscitate, she could end up with broken ribs. If she get broken ribs, it could puncture her body, her organs. Like she said, y'all need to talk about it. You need to ask grandma what she want them to do. So I hear you on that because I had never thought about that. Even for myself, I don't even know if someone asked me that right now for myself, if I could clearly say, do what you need to do, because what would be the end result?
Well, I mean,
Like you said, I never knew that. I never thought to even ask that question or to have them, whoever's over my care, to ask them, well, what's their end results? If y'all do this to my sister, what's going to be her end result? So I'm gonna have to look. Now you got me. I'm taking notes.
well,
I need to ask that.
I'm going to be honest. I've been in this situation twice. And what you're talking about, the chest compressions, when my husband, when he was rushed to the ER after he basically died in the car, when I walked into the ER, when I got to the hospital, they put me in the family waiting room, and that's never a good sign. But then they brought me in, they said, we got him back. And when I walked into the room, there was this machine. And yes, what your niece is telling you about, if they're using the machine, it would break ribs because it is a machine that is doing the chest compressions. And while it helps, my husband was a big guy, I'm sure because the cardiac bypass surgery he had, that they used the piano wire, the wire or guitar wire, the wire snapped.
Oh.
So you could actually, after his surgery, and he was 10 years out, you could actually, his chest would do this number if you pressed on it. So I'm not sure that would have been a good thing. When it came to him, because I mean, I had the DNR for my grandmother, and that was a choice. He was there with me. But when it came to him, this was my choice. And it was the hardest thing in the world because I had to look, in the ER, they're like, so it had been almost an hour he was without oxygen. And I know mentally that there's no coming back from this. There's none. Yet in that moment, when they asked me, they're like, so is it okay if we intubate him and put him on a ventilator? And I'm like, I said, what's his brain status? Well, we don't know yet. We have to do tests. Okay. Now, does he have a DNR? Right. I said, he does have paperwork and I am a power of attorney, but it's at home. Well, we can set something up now. So they set up a DNR and all that while I was there. So they took him and I let him, after they tried to wake him up. And even though Tuesday they woke him up, this was Monday, Tuesday they woke him up and he tried to speak, but then that was it. And he would yawn and everything. That's the most unnerving thing of all, is sitting next to your loved one's hospital bed and watching them go through bodily, move. Maybe they'll move or they'll yawn, but there's nothing there. The only activity he had was some brainstem activity. Otherwise, his brain was pretty much, he had an anoxum brain injury. And it was Saturday when I finally said, okay, I've done all my research. I have to make a decision.
Right.
And I had to make that choice. I had his cardiologist who wasn't on staff at the hospital. He talked to me. He was a great resource. And he explained, he's like, you don't have to make a decision until you're ready. And his best friend had come in there that day, but he knew what I was doing. So I had to make that choice, and to do that for your loved one. It's not a choice that I regret, but it's something that there's no way you're ever going to be prepared for it, but you have to be okay with it. That's why, some people are like, well, if you knew Tuesday that he was dead, basically, why didn't you do it then? Because I needed to come to terms with it.
Yeah. And that's an easy question for someone on the outside to ask.
Mm-hmm. So I would say, talk to your mom, be honest. I still haven't had that full conversation with my dad. And I mean, I should, I'm up here, but it's still, when it comes down to it, I need to have that conversation with him. And, I'd like to think that, well, he made it through the heart surgery. He made it through this, everything's fine, but do we really know?
Right. Right. So yeah, we started the conversation with the sisters We didn't have a chance to bring my brother in on a conversation yet. We have not all sat down with my mother yet and just had that conversation. So it was started, but it wasn't completed. My younger sister and I, because we're the ones here in North Carolina taking care of my mother, we are the ones who have the power of attorney. So our names are on everything. Um, but still, just because my name is on something or her name is on something, we still don't want to be one responsible. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To just decide dot dot dot. So yeah, so we started it. It's an incomplete conversation. So yeah.
It's a hard conversation. It's something that I think we all try to avoid because it's our mortality, and it's it'll
Hmm.
change. It's putting your life or someone you love's life in your hands, and or someone else's hands, and it's a hard thing to do. There's a
Yeah.
lot of trust involved in it.
Yeah. And you know, it's fun because like and when I was writing these writings, the stroke situation, the young man, he was about to leave home. It was his fault. He was a single family home, so his mother died early on. And the father was taking care. The father just was just full focus on his son and just work. So so there was no outside love interest. It was just home and work, and they had been doing all this preparation for the next step for his son because in his father's eyes, he was the world was limitless. You know what I'm saying? It was whatever he wanted to command of it, it was his to command. And yeah, it was his last day of school. He was going to leave that next morning. And he went to work to close out everything and came back before he could make it back home. The son gets the call saying, your father's being rushed to the hospital. He walked to the end of the street to the mailbox and fell out, had a stroke. And it changed the young man's life. He never left for school. And it comes out in the book. What he did, he focused more on online training and things like that and local certifications, but he never completely finished the dream school, what you call it, the experience that he and his father had planned for him.
I think I was talking to somebody last night, and the whole fact is we sit there and we make these plans and we look at these goals and we're like, okay, I'm going to go here. This is how I want to lay my life out. But the fact of the matter, life is messy, and sometimes you have to pivot.
Mm.
It's a roller coaster, dare I say. You have
Ooh,
those great highs, and then you have those lows, and you have to navigate it. But it tests you and makes you who you are.
that's for sure. That's for sure. And it surely is a roller coaster ride.
Mhm.
That it is so. And
So
it will bring some things out of you or push you into a place that you didn't even know was possible for you to go.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
you'll have people that will look at you and go, so how did you make it through there? It's like, you just do. You either get through it or you give up. And I don't look at giving up as an option.
Right. Quitting is not an option.
So where
Because
is
as long as you have breath for a reason.
this is true. So where is your dad now? Is he passed or?
Um my father is so funny because my father died. Okay, so the writing started in 1995. I didn't know why because I was a flight attendant at that time. I was a flight attendant living in Miami, Florida. What am I do with this? Like I gotta look. I have my wings, my uniform, and a D2 card. I'm about to go see the world on somebody else's dime. Like why?
Why
Who's
not?
gonna be writing?
All
And
you got to do is
yeah, like right, exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has turned on the fasten seatbelts.
you got it.
So so yeah, so ooh, and the thing was, I knew my father's health was not in the best of health. We saw him take medications, but we didn't know like how serious it was. And so my father died in 1996. It was 12 days before his 56th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. And what's so interesting about that is it was going into my second year of being a flight attendant, and I had just come back from recurrent training. on June 16th. And so on June 19th, my smart self, I was based in Miami, but at that time I was living in Nashville, Tennessee. So normally I would commute to work. I would fly out the night before, or if I had plans with friends the day before. But that particular time, I did not fly out the night before. Now, granted, I didn't know why at that time. But I just did not feel pressed to get on, like, yo, I need you to get me to the airport. I need to go, I just did not feel pressed to do that. So fast forward, in the morning that I was thinking I was just going to go to work that morning, leave Nashville and land in Miami to start my day of work, it didn't happen. Like, I couldn't get on flights. And so now that puts me in, I have two choices. I can call in and tell crew scheduling exactly what's going on, or I could lie and say I'm sick. Like, I can't make this 4-day trip. I'm sick. So my dad was like, don't waste lives. He always told us, don't waste lives. So I didn't lie. I called and I said, this is Flight Attendant McNair. And I gave them my trip sequence. I said, I'm on da 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 da. I said, I need you to let the ready duty flight attendant take the flight from Miami to Key West, and I will be there for this time, because I knew that's the plane I could get on. Mm-hmm. Well, that day I got the wrong crew scheduler, because she was like, Flight Attendant McNair, this is scheduler, they give you the numbers, like, your flight time is this time and your report time is this time, and you better be there.
Wow.
And I was like, are you kidding me? I know you have ready duty flight attendants there. I've done it for a month. Mm-hmm. Like, because things happen.
Right.
I said, are you kidding me? I know you have ready duty flight attendants there in Miami. So you're telling me you can't put someone on just this turnaround trip to give me the opportunity to get to work? And then she was like, again, Flight Attendant McNair, this schedule, whatever. And tell me that I said, okay, thank you. I said, I should have just called in sick.
Yeah.
I should have just lied and called in sick, because this is what I get for telling the truth. And so, make a long story short, the phone call ended. I got the phone call. My boyfriend said, come get me. He was like, what's wrong? I said, I'll tell you when you get here. And so we went through this whole union presentation, and it was so drawn out because they were so backlogged. So much stuff was going on. Again, that happened on June 19th. I didn't make it to my union review until November 26th.
Wow.
Right. Wow. And so in that whole holding period, my father died July 31st. So the first 2 weeks of July, my boyfriend was like, Delanda, like, you want to go, let's just travel. Let's just go somewhere. You want to go here, you want to do this. And then he finally said, you want to go just spend some time with your family? Let's just go spend some time with your parents. My boyfriend said that, not me.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the first 2 weeks of July, I got to spend at my parents' house with my mother and my father, not knowing 2 weeks later, he wouldn't be here for his 56th birthday. I had no clue of that. And what's so odd about it was, when we got back from that trip, spending that 2 weeks with my parents, and me waiting to hear back when I was going to get a date from the airlines, that Tuesday before he died, that Wednesday, we were on a deal of trade, because that's what my boyfriend, he used to do that part-time. We was doing a deal of trade. So again, I'm on a plane, or I'm in a vehicle, I'm seeing the world.
Yeah.
And so we're on this deal of trade, and I asked him for the phone. I was going to call my dad. I was like, no, that's why I always call him on Wednesday, because Wednesday was our day. And Dawn, I never got my Wednesday.
Yeah.
Because he died at 1:30 that morning. And now I knew why that whole trip situation happened. Now I knew why it kept burning in my, like, give me your phone. Let me call. I'm like, no, it's Tuesday. I always call tomorrow. And my smart self didn't complete the call. Because God was giving me that last opportunity, because he knew. But I kept putting the phone down. I was like, no, it's not Wednesday. It's not Wednesday. And then I get a call. Instead of me making my call, I got the phone call telling me that my father had died.
I got the same thing with my husband's dad. His dad was like a dad to me. He was a friend. He was like a dad to me. And we were here setting this house up, and I was cooking, and all day long I kept getting in my head, call dad. I'm like, I'll call dad later. And by that evening, it was raining and cold, and I got a phone call from John's brother saying his dad was dead.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
okay. Yeah, it can't be, because no, I'm supposed to call him. Like, he can't be dead, because I'm supposed to call him. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, and I mean, when I was thinking about it, when I kept hearing call dad, I'm like, oh, I'll call my dad. And here's an interesting thing. So speaking of phone calls, so my car, we had this weird thing on the back bumper. One of the plugs had fallen out. And so we had a rainstorm and rain got into the car. I have a hybrid and it shorted out the battery.
Mm.
So my car is out of the shop. I call my dad to talk to him because he owned the shop and I'm talking to him about it. Okay. So I talked, this was in September. So I talked to him and this is the day before he has his heart attack and stroke.
Oh wow.
So, but this gets even weirder because my half sister and I were kind of estranged. And so fast forward, my dad has a stroke. I have to call my sister to let her know what's going on. She's estranged from our dad anyway, but
Mm.
it's the right thing to do. So
Right.
I call and let her know, and we start forming a friendship again, and we start talking again. And that December, her husband ended up killing her and her kids and himself. So,
Ah,
but I look at it this way. I mean, it was awful, and I don't know all the facts about it because, like I said, we were just starting to get close again.
right. But
Because
you
there's,
did have some kind of
yeah,
closure and
there was
mending before it happened.
there was 12 years between us, but yeah, I got that closure. But and so that's what I look at. It's like, so the car, if I look at the bigger picture of the car breaking, I called my dad. My dad, it was the day before the stroke, so I got to talk to him in case he didn't make it. Because at
Right.
the time it was kind of like, well, now I understand why I called him that day. And
Right.
then, now it's like, okay, I understand why all that played out. But he can't hear now.
Right.
So now if I talk to him, do it via text. But yeah, it's weird how sometimes you really have to pay attention, and we don't
No,
always
Don,
do it.
no, no, no. You always, you
Yeah,
always
you always
have,
should pay attention.
yeah, you always, because the, it's, it took those moments. You know how all growing up, I would hear like, don't take people for granted. Don't take things for granted. Don't take this for granted. If you appreciate someone you love them, don't take them for granted. Um, I understood what those words meant, but I didn't understand what the action showed.
Yeah,
I never paid attention to that part.
yeah,
I'm like, I don't take you for granted. I appreciate you. But what are your actions showing
right.
as it parallel with what you're saying? So yeah, it is so important to pay attention to those little nudges. Like, I wonder what so and so doing. Well, pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're in the car, go ahead and drop by.
Mm-hmm.
Because all you have is that moment. That's
Right,
it.
right.
That moment, at that, when you get that thing, that nudge, that's all you have. And like, I've had two other situations that happened with me that it was just really pressing for me to do a thing or make an action, and I didn't do it. And then those two people are gone. And I'm like, when you going to get it, Delanda?
Yeah.
When are you going to get it? So yeah, it's important to do that.
I mean, it's like we don't. I don't think we take enough time to look at what's around us. It's like, when somebody ask you, "How are you?" "Oh, I'm fine." And if you really know somebody and you know they're not fine, don't sit there and go, "Okay," because it's the people that the people that were in the media, the Kate Spade, and you know, well, she looked fine, everything
That
was
was so
fine.
sad. Oh my
It
word. Now,
was
I didn't
very
know a
sad.
whole lot about her, but
Mhm.
just to see that little cap, wow. Like,
But that's the thing about
oh,
people in depression. You don't see it. People can put on a mask. They act like they're. My mom did it. She was very.
mm,
She see everybody was that knew her outside of my grandmother and I said she was excited about my wedding. She was looking forward to my wedding. The very last thing she said to me was, "Have a nice wedding."
wait a minute. But you're going to be there, right? Like, hold on.
No,
Like,
no, she had already told me, and it's a long. I recorded a
got
whole
you. Okay, I
episode
see
about
what you're
this. Yeah,
saying.
it was just she was not going to be there, and it was one of those things of I'm going to do this so you can have a nice wedding. I'm going to do this so your stepfather's rebuilt car will be good. I'm doing this so everybody's taken care of. And the thing is, we weren't going to be taken care of.
Mm,
It'll be 30 years that she's gone next month or this month,
wow.
excuse me. Yeah, it's this month. But it's one of those things where people don't see the bigger picture. And when you're somebody saying, "Oh, I'm fine," yeah, are you going to dig? Because, if you really know this person, you really care about this person, you're going to dig a little bit.
Especially if you know the person. I know I was when I came back, when I left Tennessee, when I left Miami, left Tennessee and came back, when I left the travel industry and came back to North Carolina, because when my father died, I realized that I was too far away from home. Like I was, like the career I had chosen for me at that time was such a taker. Like I never did birthdays with my family. I never did Mother's Day and Father's Day with my parents. I didn't do their anniversary. Christmas and Thanksgiving, I was not with them. I was either on a plane or in a hotel getting ready for a flight or trying to sleep off the work day, you know. So when my father died, it opened up my eyes to some different things in a way of seeing things. But when I left Nashville to come back closer to home, I was living with my older sister. She was in Fayetteville, North Carolina at the time before she went to Kansas. Well, she went to Texas first, but anyway, but the the man that I started working for, he owned an insurance agency. It was a small insurance agency. And thanks to him, I have my property and casualty license because I didn't never pay any attention to insurance. I knew I needed to have drive my car, but then that was it. So thanks to him, I have more than a 20-year career of insurance. But what's so odd about that whole situation was I started working for them in I think it was about September of 1999. Okay. And then he sold the book of business in 2001. And then I ended up moving to Raleigh and working for the company that I was working for. But make a long story short, in that employment there, he was a very hard man. When I started at the front desk. So he would come in and this is no joke. Now, you see how you smell? He's like, Delanda, good morning. I'm thinking, is it? I can't tell that it is because it's so it would be almost intimidating. Do I say good morning? So, and he was when I got to take some of the notes and stuff for him, when he do meetings, and he was like, Delanda, I'm having a meeting with so-and-so. I want you to come in here. And I'm thinking, I would go to the manager, he wants me to come in there. Do I have to?
Does he like me? Because I really can't tell.
Right. Oh my gosh, Dawn. So fast forwarding through all of that. One day he was getting ready for a lunch meeting and he called it and I happened to answer the phone. And then he was like, Delanda, this is, and he told me who he was. And he was like, I am at, told me where he was. I'm getting ready for this meeting with this person. I need you to bring me the accounts. I said, I said, wait a minute, you want, and I said, the other lady, you want her to bring it? He said, no, Delanda, I'm at so-and-so, just tell her you're going to bring me the accounts right quick. So I'm thinking, okay, fine. I went, told her what was going on, got the file, and I'm thinking I'm just going to run out, come back. And then he was like, sit down. Because I'm thinking, here you go. And then he was like, no, sit down. I'm thinking, wait a minute, what? So he ended up buying me lunch that day because the guy the appointment hadn't gotten there yet. So I got to talk to him a little bit. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's just really rough around the edges. Because I was thinking what is up with this man? One of those times I was out to lunch with him, he said to me, and it's crazy because it gives me chills just hearing this conversation playback now. He said to me that he had bought himself a firearm for his birthday, one of his birthdays. And he told me that one of the things that he used to do in the morning, the first thing he used to do is get up and read obituaries to make sure that he wasn't there. So I'm thinking, what?
Alrighty then.
But on the other side of that conversation, he felt, how we were talking about your parents feel like they're a burden. He felt like he was a burden to his children. And he felt now, granted, I don't know what fathership looked like to them. I don't know if he did a good job or not. So it could have been that they had what some would say legitimate reasons to not to. But at the end of the day, he felt like they didn't need him or really want him around, just the access that he gave or came with him because he owned the company.
Yeah.
And so he was telling me about the birthday gift he had bought himself. And I was like, really? That's the idea. He was like, yeah. He said, because I won't live past this age. And I said, how do you know that? You're not God. Only God knows that. And then he said, that's why I bought myself the gift. I said, what? And so he was like, yeah, I figured if I either I die before then or I'll take care of it. I said, what you mean you take care of it? And he literally told me that I'm gonna do this by this birthday because I don't want to be a bother to my family, and I don't want them to have to take care of me. And I was so young, I didn't hear what he was saying to me.
Yeah.
And he did that. He
Wow.
executed. So I get a call a couple of months later after he sold the book of business. I moved in February. And then about 3 or 4 months later, I get a call from one of my old coworkers. And she was like, Delanda, are you sitting down? I was like, what? She was like, are you sitting down? I said, no, do I need to? And then so she was like, yeah, you can go and sit down. And I was like, okay. So I sat down there and she told me the story. She was, and I'm like, and I instantly went back to that table, that lunch, and him telling me that stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, what was I supposed to do with that? Because I felt like I failed him in some kind of way, because that was years ago. He told me that.
But
And
go ahead.
that did something to me. Like, because I had never experienced anything. Like I had heard about suicide and someone feeling so pushed or pressed, whatever it was, to want to just silence themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Forever. I've heard, but I have never been that close to it. When someone tells me, and then you hear that it actually took place. I was a mess for a minute.
Oh,
I
sure.
was.
Well, and here's the thing. There are people that will talk about suicide, and they will talk about suicide for years, and they will never act on it, and that's a good thing. But then there are people that are on a mission. My mother tried it, I can't tell you how many times. There's times I don't remember because I was too little. There's times that, in high school she tried it. She tried it for a month straight. The year in June of 91, she every day she was saying she was going to do it. She would call me every day, which, you know, people are going to say this is bad of me, but at a certain point it's mental abuse, because she would call me and tell me every day she's going to do it and how she's going to do it. And the worst was when she tells me, because they had a standing shower in their master bathroom, that she was going to go in the shower and shoot herself, and she wanted me to come back from Dallas and find her body. And I told her, if you love me, you wouldn't ask me to do that.
Right.
She was married. I could not, I think I was 22 at the time. I had 2 kids that were my step kids. My husband, or my fiance at the time, he was like, "Oh, you're not, don't worry about it. She's just talking." She was calling my grandmother, tormenting her, and my stepfather was away. And I called my stepfather and I said, when she moves, because she was supposed to move up to Indiana in July with him. I said, make sure you get rid of the gun, make sure you get rid of everything, da 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 da. I tell him everything that's going on. And I know she tried it that time, and because there was a bullet hole in one of the bookcases after she passed. But she ultimately did it in November. And, part of me, my dad refuses to believe that my mother would ever do it. She was always pill taker. She was too vain. That's what he would tell me. And I'm like, at a certain point when pills haven't done it, because she was in a coma for 3 days in high school, and when I was younger, she had taken pills. But when that doesn't work and you are on a mission, and that's the way I look at it, for her, it was a mission. She opted to kill herself. She opted to shoot herself.
Yeah, like when I know my father's death, um, I didn't realize until many, 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 many years later how two things, how the writings that came to me in 95 when he was about to die in 96 would be why it would matter to me so much, and why it was so important for me to have that access and that outlet. Because again, like with his unexpected death, and then me prepare myself for my mother's stroke, and to be her caregiver full time. And it's interesting. It's another situation that unfolds in that book. And when you say you're writing out somebody's, I didn't realize how therapeutic it was at the time for me to actually pen it, because the way I write is I take pen to pad and I write first, because for me it's a better connection to the story. um and another crazy thing is, Dawn, I didn't map out that book. Like that first book, Father Than the Eyes Can See, it was totally God given. Like I had a conversation with my younger sister one night, and for whatever reason, it started to be a dream, and it started to be a repetitive dream. So it got to the point that I kept dreaming this. I'm like, I got her on the phone. I was like, listen, that conversation we had weeks ago, I keep having this dream about this? And then she was like, So I was talking to her about the dream. And so what happened is, every time I talked to her, it was progressing, but it was like giving me, it was like start from the beginning and go up to, and I'm like, okay. So it's like I felt so weighted. I was like, let me just write this stuff down. Didn't even, because I had never even journaled before. I'm not a journaler. So I just like, let me just write this down. So that's when I became more connected with my creative side, because I learned that I'm see, say, do. I'm seeing it in my dreams. I'm saying it in the conversation with my younger sister, and I'm doing it by writing it out. And every time I went through that 3-step process, it was like, okay, God was like, push pause. Okay, this is the next scene. And it's like, then I'll come home, write it down, or wherever I was, like on napkins. And one of my passengers one time says, here, take this notepad. Because I'm trying to, this little square of napkin, I'm trying to turn it up, fold it, and just write teeny tiny. And so I didn't realize it was therapy in advance that I would need a couple of years down the road. I didn't, and what's so crazy about it, I wrote that first book, not reading it as a true, as when you go to the store and you see the cover, like, okay, let me get this. And you open the first page and you go along the read journey. I had never gone along the read journey of the first book. And so with Father Than the Eyes Can See, that book it started in 1995. It was published in 2013. And I didn't read it for the true read journey until 2020. And when I read it, I was like, wow, like that's me. Like, oh my God, like it gave me chills reading some of it, because I'm like, oh my God, this is so me. I didn't even realize how, even though I'm thinking I'm just being obedient, because in the beginning, I didn't want anything to do with a published work. I didn't want anything with my name on it. I did not want anything with my picture on it, because I'm just one of those behind the scenes person. Hey, if I could support you, promote you, I could do that. But no, me being here with you like this, no, I'm not being on camera. And it's so crazy, because my younger sister was like, she was going along the process with me. So she would check in and be like, well, how are you doing? What's going on? And where are you? And when I got to almost being at the finishing part, when I said, okay, I've done all I can do, I've chosen who I'm going to go with, and I'm just waiting for them. This is like, I'm so excited, because I can't wait to see you. Like, I could see you now on an open panel and talking about the book. And I was like, that ain't gonna happen. That's not gonna happen, because it will not have my name and it will not have my face. I said, I'm gonna have a pen name, and I'm just gonna have, I don't have to have my picture on the book. And she was like, she said a number of things, but the key thing that she said, I'm gonna just leave you with this. She said, if God directly gave the story to you, how dare you hide behind some fictitious name and not allow him to have the glory with your name and face on? I said, what? It has nothing to do with God. Like, it does, but it doesn't. Like, the story's going to read the same. Like, the message is going to read the same to whatever the message is, for whatever the reader that picked that book up and read it. It has nothing to do with my name and face. And then she was like, I'm just saying. And then it was like silence. And then it's like, now I'm in the room with God. I'm like, Lord, really? Like, really? Does it have to have my name? Does it have to have my face? Because your story is the story. Like, it's going to read the same. Like, am I really hiding from you? Like, am I really taking away your opportunity to use me? And so, yes, needless to say, it's look, this the first book. Let me see if I can get in here for you. Let me see.
Nope, I got you.
Wait a minute. I
That green
can't do it.
screen.
Okay,
Nope.
I can't get it. All right, so this is the first book.
Okay. I kind of see it. Yeah, there we go.
All right, so it has my name, it has my face, but it's a real small picture. But I got so much better with the second book. The second book is You Taught Me. And what I missed, I didn't realize I missed so much about the writing journey with the first book because it was so many parts. I don't know, but with the second book, I researched more as it relates to what it takes to publish the book. So I did the second book mostly by myself. I found someone to do the formatting for me. I found someone to do the editing for me. But other than that, and then what I did, I was able to collaborate with. There's an artist that goes to my church, and he was able to do the front cover for me. We bought a trays. I did something for him, and then he was asking me like, "Come pick out a." He was like, "Come pick out a piece," and I was like, "Wait a minute, hold on." I need a book cover. I said, so let me, I said, can I push pause? And like, instead of me picking out a piece that I like, can I just give you a little synopsis? And I want you to give me a piece that delivers that. And it so does. Like the title, with the first cover, I found the change of season, fall foliage, because in my life, it was such a change of season
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And again, that cover, I had no clue how much it was saying about me and where I was at that time. But I sent him this picture. I found this picture online and said, hey, I don't own the rights to this picture. I said, but can you take this picture and make it mine? Can you personalize it? And they did such an awesome job of it. And then with this one, You Taught Me, it was like, it's this lady in her garden. And it's like, you know what? Been there, done that. He taught me, but I'm still good. I learned some things and look at me in my flourishing garden. I'm still good. Life is still good. Was it easy? No, but I'm still good. So yeah, so the first book, Father Then the Eyes Can See, it talks about the focus of that book is like forgiveness, redemption, and love. The love of man and the love of God. And the little sentence at the bottom, I had a couple of people like, why didn't you put God first? I said, because did you? I said, okay, let me turn it on myself. I haven't always put God first. Have you? Because I haven't. I didn't always love God first. Oh, he's cute. Oh, I like the way his voice sounds, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. So but at the end of the day, or somewhere in the middle, guess what? Okay, Lord. God, I need your help. So yes, that's why, because sometimes we get it out of order like that. But even when we do, he's so gracious and so peaceful and so receiving that he still welcomes us back. And at the end of the day, forgiveness, it's a healing gift. And we should choose to both extend it and receive it. And that's to ourselves as well as others, because when we don't, we're basically stealing from the wellness and betterment of ourselves and others. Because things, I mean, we're not perfect. And it's so funny because in the Bible, when it says, when you sin, he said, when you do, like I got a way out for you. Or, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to wear that burden over your shoulders. Like, oh my God, I messed up. I did this. There's redemption from it. But just as gracious as he is to extend it to you, be as gracious to receive it and welcome it and be thankful for it, because sometimes we don't. And then what You Taught Me, it still rolls over the message of the healing gift of forgiveness, redemption, and love, but second chances. Like sometimes, be it consciously or unconsciously, we're closed the door on second chances, be it to ourselves or someone else. But at the end of the day, there is no, and when I say this, I do not say this lightly, because there is no way I can tell someone I know how you feel because of that thing that they went through or that
Yeah.
act that was done against them. But like we said earlier, if you still have breath, you still have breath for a reason. Get the best out of the rest of that breath. Don't waste it on unforgiveness. Don't waste it and lose it on sitting and being parked in a unproductive, ungiving, and unloving space and place. Utilize your second chance. He's extending it to you for a reason. because betterment is yours. It's your choice, though.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is your choice. Whether you receive it and extend it to someone, it's your choice, or yourself. There have been plenty of times, like it was something that happened. I think I was having a conversation with one of my sisters, and we were talking about. They were asking me questions about the book. There was a situation in Farther Than the Eyes Can See, and my older sister was saying, I don't know if he was as much of a friend as I think he should have been. And I said, why did you say that? I said, and the character is Guy. She was talking about Guy's situation. And one of the friends was Stuart. And with whatever it was that Guy was going through, my sister thought that Stuart should have been more vocal because he saw what it was doing to him.
Oops.
Hold on.
There we
Okay,
go.
there we go. Because but I told her, I said, it's funny that you said that because it gave me the opportunity to look at myself as me being a friend to other people. And then I said, you know what? How do we know when we're actually, whatever our friends are going through, when we're actually giving that friend the best of the friendship that we can give them at that moment? Who are you to say that it's not good enough? Because everybody is going through stuff, you know? It could be when my best friend and I are both in a turmoil or a tumultuous. I'm so tearing up words right now, but time. And who am I to say you're not being the friend I need you to be when they're doing their best to keep their shoulders squared, you know? So when I told her that way, I said, here's the thing, Stuart was going through this. I said, but see, you don't know that at that time because it later comes out in the other book. I said, so think about it, Dina. He was being the best friend that he could be, and that he had the wherewithal to be at that time because of him going through this. And then my younger sister said, that's just the author speaking, because she knew what was going on.
Well, I mean, here the thing is, in life, if you apply this to life, it's the issue of expectations. What is somebody's expectations? You know, that's right. The big thing here. It's the whole expectations thing.
Yeah. But my sister was like, you know, I never looked at it that way. I said, think about it. Have you always been the best of the friend that you can be and that you know to be? Have you always been that 100 across the board every single time to every friend that you consider to be your friend? And she was, and all look, it was like a wow you factor moment. She was just like, wow, I don't know. I said, thank you. And that's where, right. I said, and that's where Stuart was. He gave him, and it took his wife. And see, that's another, because in the book, the wife comes to him like, look, you see where your friend is? Like, he needs more of you right now. Like, I mean, yeah, we're praying, but he needs to see you type thing. And so my sister's like, well, why did wife have to be the one to come tell him? I said, again, like we just said, sometimes we need that. Sometimes, and then sometimes because you are so close and you see your friend and you have an idea of where they are, am I gonna make it worse? Am I, you know what I'm saying? You kind of teeter-totter, like, where's my entry point? Like,
and sometimes we need that external voice, the voice of reason. You know, my husband and I would joke around that sometimes he would say I was his voice of reason when he wasn't sure what to do or make a decision. He's like, I need a voice of reason here. And I'd be the same way. And I think that's, you know, speaking of where the wife is coming from, she's the outside source.
Right. And so, but he took her advice in the book. He took her advice. He had the conversation. And another thing is, we talk about how, if you believe in God, you know how the book says his ways are not our ways and his time is not our timing. His timing is perfect timing. Well, of course, we're like, yeah, God, but I needed that yesterday. You know, like, well, just hold your horses. I'm not ready to deliver it yet. You know, so it's like, and we talked about. I said, but think about it. I said, God's timing is perfect timing, right? So, if at whatever time Stuart is like, you know what, this is the day I'm going to have that conversation with him, and literally, by the end of that evening, God was like. Because at the moment, God was speechless. He didn't respond. Stuart was like, okay, basically, I gather that you're hurt. but have you thought about what you're going to do? What's your rebound? What are you going to, you know what I'm saying? Where are you going from here? And he was like, at the end, he took it all in and he finally said, I heard you. And he answered those questions. I said, but Dina, it may have been, and look, because it gave us an opportunity to talk. Granted, this was a story, but it was an opening. It was a conversation open. I said, but it could be that it wasn't the time for God to be receptive of that conversation. And he was not ready to be open to look at himself to the degree that he would need to be able to answer those questions. I said, so y'all keep, and I was telling them, I was like, y'all keep forgetting. I didn't write this story. I just allow myself to be used as a vessel. That's God's story. I'm just a pen. I truly became his pen on that. On the first book, I truly was God's pen because, like I told you before, I was having dreams. Mm-hmm. And I started writing out my dreams. Mm-hmm. It was so much so that I could wake up like, okay, I need to go write this. Because at that time I had a desktop computer. And so I would get up, go in there and wait for the thing to boot up. Because, it took a minute, it comes on it. Yeah. And so I would spend like 3 or 4 hours in there writing and come home and come back and be like, lay back down and go to bed and get back up at like 6:45 and never miss sleep and still go out and work my full work day. There were times when I literally went to bed with a pen and pad on the bed, and I would take my hand and guide my pen and write down whatever was in my dreams and then roll over and go back to sleep. And I could read it in the morning. Never open my eyes, never turn on the light. I'm like
automatic writing. So you have a new book coming out, I see, in November 2021.
And go back to bed. Yes. Yes. Okay. So the book coming out in 2021 is I had the opportunity to work with some other authors, and it's a project spearheaded by Miss Burlisa Wilson, and it is called Dear.
Whoops.
Hold on. It's called Dear Daughter. So Dear Daughter is basically, it's funny. It's similar to the conversation we're having that we had earlier. The letter to yourself. Like going through life and made it to whatever area, place, space, or degree, wherever it is that you are. There have been plenty of times when I have said, like, wow, where was this then? Like, I wish I had known this, or why didn't somebody, or if somebody had just told me this, oh, that wouldn't have happened. So it's that letter. And again, I had the opportunity to work with some really cool authors, and we're just telling the young girls, young ladies, listen.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I tell people, like I send my nieces messages now, and even my nephews, like, you're good enough, right? You're good enough. So if someone comes to you and try to tell you or present a picture of why you're not, guess what? They're right. But it's right that you're not good enough for them in that setting. Not that you're not good enough to do what you're supposed to do and to be where you're supposed to be. So when you're in that space and place and it feels like, oh my gosh, like I don't fit here. That's right. And you need to find your exit. And then you need to continue to be you, because the you that he's molded and shaped you to be up to this point, and the you that he's continued to shape you to be throughout your years, is going to always be appointed, and it's going to always be good enough. You don't never have to not be your authentic you. Don't ever let no one take that from you.
I think that, especially nowadays, we allow outside factors to create who we are, and we don't always trust ourselves. And that's where we need to try to get back to. It's like the outside factors don't mean anything. The social media likes and everything, while it's great, it isn't. Those people necessarily aren't real.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
not going to be the one that's going to be there when you're breaking down crying. Some will, but most of them won't. So you need to be true to who your friends are, your family is, and to yourself.
Exactly. And I remind them of that often. I do. And I ask my nieces, like, who are you? Why are you beautiful? What makes you beautiful? Because it's important for me to know that they are connected to their inner them, because that's what makes them beautiful. Not because of, oh my goodness, not because of how it, but my battery is like, listen, you've been talking too long.
Well, we'll wrap this up really quick. I was going to say, the one thing you were talking about reminds me of an episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where there's an earthquake and he's trapped downstairs in the basement with his girlfriend, and she's got a fake weave and she's got fake pads in her bra, and she's like taking all this stuff off. And he finally just looks at her and says, "What is real about you?"
Right.
And I think that's a question that we all have to ask ourselves: is what is real about you?
Yes.
So
yeah.
Well, so before your battery dies, I thank you so very much for the time, and I hope my audience has enjoyed our chat.
Yes, thank you. It's such a pleasure being here.
So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. When Delanda and I were talking offline before the show started, we just started riffing. It was like it's instant connection as we talked about writing and the fact that sometimes when we write, it actually morphs into reality. And we did cover that a little bit on the show. When you look at the fact that her life started off with, writing this in 1995, and then by 2012, she's kind of living it. It's an amazing journey. And I think sometimes as a writer, even in my own personal experience, before my husband died, I was writing about a widow, and I hadn't experienced that, but yet I was already starting the grieving process. So as a creative, as an author, I think sometimes our life, or maybe dare I say intuition, as she said, God, whichever you choose, however you choose to phrase it, I think sometimes we're taught these, here, start writing this so you can start the process, so you can start dealing with it, whether you realize it or not. You're starting to put the pieces in place. The show today, I think, had some good information about people, sometimes as our family members, our parents, our grandparents, whoever it is, starts to age, there's certain things we need to look at and certain things we need to have, those big conversations that we all want to avoid. And as I said, I still haven't had that conversation with my father completely. I kind of know, because in a roundabout way, my stepmother and I have talked about it, but I haven't fully had that conversation. And, the moments, like I said earlier, the moment that you have to make that decision to use a DNR or a power of attorney, it is something that you can't take lightly. And the fact that somebody has given you the trust to do it says a lot about who you are. But it's not something that you can do very lightly. And it's a choice too for yourself when you are trying to get your stuff together, to make that choice of who are you going to put your life, your life in their hands. That's an important decision. And it's something that you shouldn't take lightly. So I hope you guys got something from this episode of the show. All of her links are in the bio and or the show notes. And, I enjoyed talking to her. It was a pleasant conversation. And I think that she has a lot of energy and she has a great personality. And I'm glad she put her name on the book and decided to pursue promoting it herself, because I think she has a voice that should be heard. So on that note, as always, if you have a question for the podcast, you can send me a message or email me at Dauna@better2podcast.com. That's DAUNA @better2podcast.com. If you would like to be a guest on the show, that also applies. You can follow us at the better2podcast.com site. All of our social links are there. We also have a Patreon account if you would like to support the show. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. You are listening to the Better 2 Podcast with DM Needham.